the girl everyone loved, and the secret I never told. You ever noticed how some memories don't just fade, they haunt you? Well, this story starts long before the wrinkles, the gray hair, and the creaking bones I wake up with today. Now, this story starts when I was 18, and the world still felt like it was waiting just for me to arrive. The year was 1982, North Carolina. Hot summers, fireflies at dusk, and a campus full of dreams. I had just arrived at Harrington University. Second-tier school, small town, but to me, it felt like I stepped into a new universe. I was the quiet one, the kind of girl who packed extra pencils and still said, "Yes, ma'am," to the mailbox lady. I had never been special, never stood out, never shined. But the girl assigned as my roommate, ooh, honey, she was made of sunlight and danger. The first time I saw her. Her name was Eleanor Hayes. I remember stepping into our dorm room. 2 beds, wooden desks, barely space for 2 people to breathe, and she was sitting cross-legged on her bed. Hair down, red lipstick, radio playing Stevie Nicks. She didn't look up, just said, "You must be Susie. I figured you'd be neat." And then she smiled. Lord help me. I think the entire hallway got brighter. Her eyes were this golden brown color, like iced tea catching the afternoon light. Her laugh, God, her laugh made you feel like you were missing the punchline, but happy to be there anyway. She had this way of existing that made everyone else feel like background noise. I was quiet, plain ponytail, secondhand jeans, but she threw her arm around me like we'd known each other forever and said, "Roomie, we're gonna live this year. I can feel it." And just like that, my life stopped being mine alone. Eleanor was magic. Let me tell y'all something. Boys didn't just like Eleanor, they orbited her. Every morning, there'd be notes slipped under our door. Mixtapes, flowers from the dining hall garden. One guy even sent her a damn pizza with "Will you go out with me?" written in pepperoni. And she would laugh, toss her hair, and flirt just enough to keep 'em around, but never let any of 'em close. She was a sparkler, bright, beautiful, and gone before you could hold her. And I watched. Not jealous yet, just mesmerized. Because she had everything I didn't. Confidence, beauty, charm like a second language. But she never made me feel small. Not at first. She'd drag me to parties, loop her arm in mine, and whisper, "Susie, honey, you're pretty. You just don't use it." She'd pick out my clothes, make me try a red lipstick for the drama, and teach me how to flip my hair without looking like a startled horse. People would say, "Oh, that's Eleanor and what's-her-face." I laughed it off, because being next to someone that radiant, sometimes it feels like warmth. Sometimes it feels like being invisible. But that was the first night I realized I was the supporting character. Eleanor was the main event. But I stayed close, laughed at her jokes, watched as she pulled attention like gravity. Some people shine so hard they make shadows behind them. I didn't know then that one day I was going to drown someone in that shadow. Boys and games. Let me tell you, Eleanor didn't mean to break hearts. She just existed, and hearts broke naturally. Basketball players, art majors. One boy wrote a sonnet for her. Bad one. Rhymed love with dove. She read it, kissed him on the cheek, and whispered, "You're sweet, but not my destiny." He nearly fainted. She was effortless, smiling, floating, making people feel lucky just to be near her. I admired her. I loved her. And sometimes, when she left the room and the air got quiet, I hated her too. Not for what she did, but for the things I could never be. I'd sit on my bed reading while she got ready for dates, perfume, earrings, that smile, and I'd feel like a ghost watching someone else's life. She'd say, "Wish me luck," and I'd say, "Good luck." But what I meant was, I wish you'd stayed ordinary, because if she were ordinary, maybe I wouldn't feel like nothing. The confession before the sin. One night, after they'd been together for months, she said something I'll never forget. We were lying in the dark, talking like college girls do when they can't sleep. She whispered, "Susie, you ever feel like something is so beautiful it scares you?" I said, "No." She said, "That's how I feel about Charles. Like some part of me knows I can't keep him. Nobody gets to keep something that perfect." I laughed and said, "You're the beautiful one, Elle." She didn't answer. And I swear, to this day, she must have felt something changing, because after that night, she held him tighter, and I pulled away. The moment, jealousy turned into a plan. It happened at the winter formal. Red decorations, cold air, whole campus dressed up. Eleanor wore a velvet dress and gold heels. She looked unreal. Charles couldn't take his eyes off her. I watched them dance, her head on his shoulder, his hand on her back, that perfect storybook scene. And something in me snapped. I thought, if I could just change one thing, maybe, just maybe, someone would pick me first. So later, when she left early because her shoes were hurting and Charles stayed behind, I approached him. I smiled. I lied. I told him Eleanor had been flirting with someone else. Said maybe she wasn't as serious as he thought. He went quiet. Then he said, "Thank you for telling me," and walked away. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt like I had swallowed glass. But I told myself it was nothing. Just a whisper. Just a little push. She'd never know. The breaking of a beautiful thing. Over the next week, I watched their love fall apart like a mirror dropped in slow motion. He stopped texting her goodnight. She stopped humming in the mornings. Arguments, tears, silences so heavy I could feel them from across the room. One night, she sat at her desk writing something for hours. Her hand trembled. When she finally finished, she whispered, "Some things are easier to write than say." She kissed the envelope, left it by the lamp, went to bed without turning around. I watched her sleep. Then I stood up, walked across the room, picked up the envelope, read the front. "To Charles, I still believe in us." I held that letter. I held her hope. And in the biggest sin of my life, I took it, folded it into a book, and never mailed it. The last moment of innocence. The next morning, she left early for class. Letter gone, hope burning. She waited for him to call. He didn't. He waited for her apology. She never sent it. They fractured quietly, and I acted like I didn't know why. She asked me once, "You think he's tired of me?" I said, "Maybe." Just one word, and it destroyed something golden. That's where I'll stop for now, because you need to sit with it. Sit with that moment. The moment a jealous heart chooses silence instead of kindness. That one sin, that one stolen letter, it didn't just break a love story.
You ever notice how a single secret can live under your skin like a splinter? Not big enough to kill you right away, just deep enough to hurt every time you move? That's what that letter became. That one little envelope with all of Eleanor's hope inside that I never mailed. After the party. The next few weeks on campus felt different. Eleanor still looked like Eleanor on the outside. Same perfect hair, same laugh when she talked to professors, same confident walk across the quad. But when the crowds were gone, her eyes, they had shadows in them. Little bruises of doubt no one else noticed. She kept checking her phone, kept fixing her hair before class, kept pretending she wasn't waiting for something, but she was. She was waiting for a reply that would never come, because I had stolen it. Charles began to change. Charles didn't yell, didn't accuse. Men like him don't do dramatic exits. They do slow, silent disappearances. He stopped showing up where she was, stopped walking her to class. He even switched lab partners. And when she did finally ask him, standing in front of the library in the cold, "Charles, did I do something wrong?" He looked right through her and said, "I guess I just misread who you were," then walked away. She didn't cry. Not right there. She smiled, fake as a dollar store diamond, and said, "Okay, if that's how it is." Then she turned and walked. Slow, like every step hurt. I watched from a bench 15 feet away, and I said nothing, because guilt sounds a lot like silence. Eleanor stopped being Eleanor. She still looked like the girl everyone adored, but she started shrinking. Little things at first. She put less effort into her hair, stopped doing her signature lipstick, stayed in bed later. But the worst part wasn't what she didn't do. It was what she did. She began writing letters, over and over, in notebooks, on napkins, on receipts, letters she never sent. I'd walk in and she'd snap the journal shut, smile too fast, say she was just daydreaming. But the truth was, she was begging the universe for a second chance. And the universe wasn't listening, because I never mailed that first letter. The night she broke. It was mid-February. Cold, rain tapping the window. She came into our room after midnight. Wet hair, clothes soaked. She sat on her bed and shook. Didn't speak for a long time. I asked what happened. She whispered, "I saw him with someone else today." Her voice cracked. Not holding hands, not kissing, just laughing. She wiped her face with her sleeve and said, "It hurt more than if he'd slapped me." I said nothing, because what was I supposed to say? That I caused it? That I stole the one thing that might have saved them? All I could manage was, "I'm sorry, Elle." She didn't look at me, just said, "I thought love was supposed to wait for you." The deepest betrayal. The next morning, she left early. She skipped class, didn't come home for lunch. But she left her notebook on her pillow. I shouldn't have opened it. But sin doesn't stop at one wrong choice. It gets hungry. Inside were pages and pages of letters. To Charles. Letters that said, "I'm sorry I pull away when I'm scared. You make me want to be better. I'm not perfect, but I love you so hard it hurts." She wrote like she was bleeding onto paper, and I thought, if he read even one of these, he'd run back to her. That terrified me, because if he came back, Eleanor would get her happy ending, and I'd still be nobody. So I did the ugliest thing I've ever done. I tore out the newest letter, and I kept it. Not for any reason that made sense, just to keep them apart. The friendship started to die. We still lived together, but we weren't together anymore. She stopped talking about him. I stopped pretending I wasn't the reason. We'd sit in silence doing homework, the radio filling the air with lies. "You're so vain. Total eclipse of the heart." One night she said, "You ever feel like fate kept a secret from you?" I froze. She looked at me finally, really looked. And for a second, I swear, she knew. She didn't say it out loud, but something left her eyes that day. Trust. The kind you don't get back. The campus rumors started. People started whispering that Eleanor had been too flirty, that Charles had finally gotten smart, that maybe she never really loved him. It wasn't true, but rumors don't need truth. They need oxygen. And I was the one who lit the match. And when girls in the dorm laughed about her, I didn't defend her. I just sat quietly, because a guilty person stays quiet. The day she left. End of spring semester. She packed her things slowly. Didn't cry, didn't hug me, just folded her clothes, boxed her books, zipped the suitcase. She turned and said, "I don't think this place is good for me anymore." I nodded. She waited, probably hoping I'd say something, anything, to make her stay. But all I managed was, "Take care, Elle." She gave the saddest smile I've ever seen and said, "Goodbye, Susie." Not "see you later," not "write to me," just goodbye. She walked out the door, and with her went the best friend I ever had, and the last piece of myself I still respected. Years of silence. Life went on. I graduated, got married, had kids, sent Christmas cards, but someone like Eleanor, you don't forget her. You tuck her into a locked drawer in your mind and pray you never see what rusts in there. I never searched for her. I didn't want to know what happened because deep down, I already feared the answer. The letter returns. 38 years later. Pandemic shut everything down. I was cleaning out the attic. Old boxes, school stuff, cassette tapes. And there it was. The notebook. Her notebook. The one I stole pages from. I opened it. On the inside cover, written in her handwriting, "If this ever gets found, I hope I am finally forgiven." My heart dropped. I flipped through. All those love letters, all those words she never got to say. Then one page slipped out, the one I stole, the one that said, "You're the only one I ever let see the real me. If I lose you, I lose myself." I realized I hadn't just stolen a letter. I had stolen her chance to be whole. And she never knew why her life fell apart. The final discovery. That same week, I searched her name online. I don't know what I expected. Maybe she'd be a novelist, maybe a CEO, maybe happy somewhere. But what I found was an obituary. She had passed away 3 years earlier, never married, no children. One line stood out. She loved deeply, though life did not always love her back. I sat with that sentence for hours because I knew the truth. Life did love her back, but I didn't. And that was enough to break her. That's where I'll stop, because the confession isn't finished.
You ever wake up one morning and realize your whole life has been built on a lie? That was the summer of 2020. The attic dust was still in my hair. Eleanor's notebook was on the kitchen table. My husband kept asking why I looked so pale. I told him I just found a memory. But the truth was, I had found a grave. Searching for Charles. A week after finding Eleanor's obituary, I went searching for Charles. Not out of curiosity, out of responsibility. If Eleanor died still loving him, he deserved to know. So I typed his name into every search bar I could find. Facebook, LinkedIn, classmate directories, nothing. Almost like he never existed. Until one night, I found a single result. A small article from 1996. Professor Charles Whitford resigns mid-semester after serious personal incident. No details, no follow-up. Just one sentence that confirmed he disappeared long before Facebook was invented. That unsettled me. So I dug deeper. Yearbooks, faculty records, found a whisper. Charles left the college 2 months after Eleanor did. No job history after that, no marriage records, just silence. 2 young lives, wiped clean from the world, all because of a letter. The dream. That night, I dreamed of Eleanor. She stood in our old dorm hallway, wearing that baby blue dress she loved, the one she wore the night she first kissed Charles. Her hair was damp, her makeup smudged like she'd been crying. She said, "You took everything I never said." I tried to speak, but no sound came out. She smiled, sadly, and whispered, "Confess, or drown in it." Then I woke up, sweating, shaking, with a wet pillowcase, like I'd cried through the whole dream. The church basement. 2 days later, I walked into a church I hadn't stepped foot in 12 years. Told the pastor I needed to speak privately. He led me to a basement room. Just me, him, and the humming of a refrigerator. I said, "I need to confess something." He nodded gently. "What did you do?" I swallowed and told him everything. The letter I stole, the page I tore, the silence I chose. He didn't gasp, didn't scold me. He just asked, "Did you ever ask God to forgive you?" I said, "No." He said, "Then start now." I knelt. I tried praying, but the only words that came out were, "I'm sorry, Eleanor," over and over, until I couldn't breathe. The unexpected message. That night, I opened my email. Inbox full of spam and newsletters, like always. Except there was one message at the bottom, from an unfamiliar address. Subject line, "I know what you did." My hands went ice cold. I clicked it. Inside was one sentence. Meet me at the fountain on campus, Saturday, noon. No name, no explanation, just those words. I stared at the screen for 10 minutes straight. Who would know? Who? Return to campus. Saturday came. I drove to campus. The same oak trees, same brick paths, but the fountain? They'd renovated it. Same location, new design. People picnicked nearby, oblivious. I sat on a bench and waited. 12:05, 12:10, 12:17. A woman approached me. Late 50s, gray streak in her hair, wearing a long coat. She stopped right in front of me, removed her sunglasses, and my stomach dropped. It wasn't Eleanor. It was a face I had seen once in a photo Eleanor kept on her desk. Her younger sister. The confrontation. She said, "You must be Susan." I nodded slowly. She sat beside me and, without looking at me, said, "My sister wrote about you in her journals." I felt dizzy. She continued, "She never blamed you, not once. She just wondered why." I burned eyes. I whispered, "Because I was jealous." Silence. Then, "I know." She reached into her coat, pulled out an envelope, old, yellowed, Eleanor's handwriting. My heart nearly stopped. She said, "She wrote this the week before she died. Addressed it to you, but she never mailed it." My hands trembled. She placed the envelope on the bench, then stood. Before leaving, she said, "She forgave you long before you asked, but forgiveness doesn't erase consequences." Then she walked away. The final letter. I waited until I got home to open it. The letter was dated March 5th, 2017. Here's what it said. "Dear Susie, if you're reading this, it means I finally found the courage to write it. I always knew you stole the letter. I figured it out years later. Not because you confessed, but because I understand you better than anyone else ever did. And I want you to hear this. You didn't ruin my life. You changed its direction. Charles and I were never meant to last. He carried too many secrets of his own, one's darker than mine. Did it hurt? Yes. Did I forgive you? A long time ago. We were children, Susie. Children trying to hold something larger than we understood. I hope you lived a full life. I hope you loved somebody deeply. And if guilt still visits you at night, tell it this from me. I am at peace. I hope someday you are too, with love that time could never steal. Eleanor." The twist. I folded the letter, just sat there, crying silently, until I got to the bottom corner and noticed something. A second page. I unfolded it. There were 2 lines only. As for Charles, if you want the truth, look up room 3B 1996 missing person file. My blood turned to ice. I searched it immediately, and what I found was not what I expected. The truth about Charles. A news clipping. Graduate student goes missing after mental health crisis. Officials suspect the individual walked into the river. No body recovered. Attached was a grainy photo of Charles, and the date was April 1996, the same month Eleanor wrote her final journal entry about him. The same year she re-traumatized herself writing letters she never sent. The same time she fled town and never spoke of him again. She hadn't just lost him. She had lost him forever.